The Meridian broadcast cut through every communication channel on Earth, its crystalline tones somehow more terrifying for their beauty. The alien's voice resonated with harmonics impossible for human vocal cords to produce. Yet its message was clear. Humanity had 72 hours to prove their worth or face extinction. In the United Earth Defense Council chamber, 30 of humanity's brightest minds sat in stunned silence. The holographic display at the center of the room showed the Meridian Armada. Thousands of ships that resembled luminous snowflakes, each one capable of erasing a city from existence. Admiral Helena Santos broke the silence first. Their technology is beyond anything we've ever encountered. Conservative estimates suggest each of their ships carries enough energy to trigger a localized supernova. She paused, her weathered face grim. A conventional military response would be suicide. "Then we surrender?" asked Counselor Zhang, his fingers nervously adjusting his collar. "Accept whatever terms they offer." "No." The voice came from the far end of the table. Dr. Sarah Chin stood, her slight frame belying the authority in her stance. The quantum physicist's augmented eyes gleamed with subtle iridescence, a sign of the experimental enhancements that had saved her life after the Lagos lab disaster. "We send me." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. Admiral Santos raised her hand for silence. "Dr. Chen, with all due respect, this isn't a scientific puzzle. The Meridians demanded we prove our worth as a species. They expect warriors, soldiers. They expect us to think like them." Chen interrupted, her augmented eyes shifting through spectrum analysis of the Meridian ships still displayed above. "That's why we'll win. Because we won't." She stepped forward, her movements carrying the fluid grace that marked her as something more than standard human. The quantum field micro-manipulators embedded in her nervous system had been an experimental treatment, a last-ditch effort to save her after the accident. They'd done more than that. They'd changed her in ways even she was still discovering. "Look at their ships," she continued, gesturing at the hologram. "The crystalline structure, the perfect symmetry. They're not just aesthetic choices. They're quantum field amplifiers on a massive scale. The Meridians don't just have advanced technology. They've learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself." Admiral Santos leaned forward. "And this helps us how?" A small smile crossed Chen's face. "Because they're using brute force where elegance would serve better. They're like someone trying to perform surgery with a sledgehammer." She raised her hand, and the air around it seemed to shimmer, reality itself bending slightly. "I spent the last 5 years learning to perform that surgery with a scalpel." The council chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence held something different. Not despair, but the first faint stirrings of hope. "The Meridians want proof of our worth." Chen continued. "Let's show them something they've never seen before. Not just power, but innovation. Not just strength, but ingenuity. They think they know what humanity is capable of." The air around her crackled with invisible energy. "Let's prove them wrong." Admiral Santos studied Chen for a long moment before speaking. "You understand what you're volunteering for. If you fail." "If I fail, we're no worse off than if we did nothing," Chen replied. "But I won't fail, because I'm not going to fight them. I'm going to show them why picking a fight with humanity was their biggest mistake." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of preparation, while the world's governments crafted careful responses to the Meridian ultimatum. Buying precious time, Chen prepared in her own way. Her lab in the quantum research facility became a fortress of focused energy as she pushed the boundaries of what her augmentations could do. "Your vital signs are far outside normal parameters," Dr. Yamamoto warned, checking the screens monitoring Chen's condition. "The strain on your nervous system is exactly what I need," Chen finished, her voice steady despite the visible distortions in the air around her. "The Meridians manipulate quantum fields through their technology. I need to show them a human can do it with nothing but altered neurons and determination." As the deadline approached, Chen stood in the launch bay of humanity's most advanced stealth ship. It was hardly more than a cockpit with engines. Anything larger would have been detected instantly by the Meridian fleet. Admiral Santos approached for a final briefing. The diplomatic channel is open. Once you're in range, you'll have one chance to make your case before they either accept your challenge or... She left the alternative unspoken. Chen nodded, watching as a transport ship merged seamlessly with the quantum network, using the entity's principles of harmonic resonance to traverse vast distances almost instantly. We both learned important lessons. You taught us how to manipulate quantum fields on a massive scale. We showed you how to do it without brute force. And the entity showed us both how much more there is to learn. The commander's form shifted to face her directly. The Council of Worlds meets tomorrow. They will formally vote on Earth's admission as a full member of the Meridian Alliance. Though after your contributions this past cycle, it's merely a formality. Funny how things work out, Chen mused. You came to test humanity's worth through combat. Instead, you found it through collaboration. She turned from the window to face the commander. Have you received the latest data from the deep space probes? The commander's energy patterns brightened. Yes. The quantum signatures we've detected suggest there may be more entities like our friend out there. Whole civilizations of quantum consciousness existing in dimensions we're only beginning to understand. And now we can talk to them. Chen said, her neural interfaces humming with excitement at the possibilities. Not with weapons or displays of force, but with understanding and curiosity. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. The air between them shimmered as the entity manifested a portion of itself, a dancing pattern of quantum energy that had become a familiar sight in both human and Meridian space. Its method of communication had evolved over the past year, becoming a beautiful synthesis of mathematics, energy, and emotion. Speaking of our friend, Chen smiled, reaching out to touch the quantum field. Her neural interfaces translated the complex patterns. The entity had discovered something new in a nearby galaxy cluster and wanted to share it with both species. The commander's energy form pulsed with what Chen now recognized as laughter. Remember when we thought it was trying to destroy us? Now it's like an excited child, always eager to show us new wonders. That's the greatest lesson we've learned, Chen said, watching as the entity's quantum patterns danced through the air, telling its story in mathematics and light. The universe isn't a battlefield to be conquered. It's a mystery to be explored. And the more we learn, the more we realize how much there is yet to discover. Through the quantum network, she could feel the pulse of human and Meridian civilizations working together, their combined knowledge and approaches creating something greater than either could have achieved alone. Research facilities on both worlds were making breakthroughs daily, each discovery leading to new questions, new possibilities. You know what the best part is? Chen asked, her augmented eyes tracking the particularly complex quantum equation the entity was sharing. We're just getting started. Every answer we find leads to 10 new questions. Every solution opens up new mysteries. The commander's form resonated with agreement. And that, we've learned, is humanity's greatest strength. Not your technology, not your weapons, not even your quantum manipulation abilities. It's your endless desire to understand, to explore, to find new ways of seeing the universe. Together, they watched as the entity's story unfolded in patterns of light and energy, telling of new discoveries waiting to be made, new civilizations to meet, new mysteries to solve. The quantum network pulsed with the combined knowledge and curiosity of 3 very different species, each bringing their own unique perspective to the greatest adventure of all, understanding the infinite complexity of existence. Chen smiled as her neural interfaces processed the entity's latest revelation. Ready to learn something new? She asked the commander. His energy form brightened in response. Always. That's one human trait we've definitely acquired. The observation deck filled with quantum light as they began another lesson. 3 civilizations growing and learning together, proving that the greatest achievements come not through force or fear, but through the simple, powerful desire to understand. The elaborate display of power. This isn't about testing humanity at all, is it? The warriors paused in their advance. Through her quantum-enhanced senses, Chen could feel their confusion, their uncertainty. She pressed on. You're not looking for worthy opponents. You're looking for help. The question is. She raised her hand, and the quantum fields around her began to twist in ways that made the Meridian warriors take involuntary steps backward. What could frighten a civilization powerful enough to create pocket dimensions and turn stars into weapons? The High Commander's response was a blast of energy that should have atomized Chen where she stood. Should have. Instead, the energy flowed around her, redirected by microscopic adjustments to quantum probability fields that her augmented nervous system controlled with the precision of a master artist. Impressive, Chen said, her voice steady. But inefficient. You're using enough energy to power a small star, and what are you actually accomplishing? Here, let me show you something interesting. She lifted her hand again, and this time the quantum fields bent in a way that made the Meridian warriors' armor simply stop. No explosion, no dramatic effects. The incredibly complex quantum technology that powered their suits just ceased to function. Sometimes, Chen said to the suddenly still warriors, less is more. Now, shall we have an honest conversation about what's really going on here? Because I think humanity might actually be able to help, if you're willing to stop playing games and tell us the truth. The arena's crystalline surfaces reflected the silence that followed, broken only by the subtle hum of quantum fields adjusting to new possibilities. The real test was about to begin, and it had nothing to do with combat. Chen smiled. Finally, they were getting somewhere interesting. The crystalline arena hung in suspended animation as the High Commander's voice returned, stripped of its earlier arrogance. How did you know? Chen walked calmly between the frozen Meridian warriors, her augmented eyes analyzing the quantum patterns that rippled through their disabled armor. Your entire civilization is built on quantum manipulation, but your field harmonics are desperately unstable. You're fighting something. Something that's attacking you at the quantum level itself. A new figure materialized in the arena, the High Commander himself. Unlike his warriors, his form was almost pure energy, held together by impossibly complex quantum fields. We call it the Void Cascade, he said, his voice carrying harmonics of deep exhaustion. It began in our core systems 3 cycles ago. At first, we thought it was a natural phenomenon. Chen nodded, her neural interfaces processing the new data. But it wasn't. It's targeting your quantum technology specifically, isn't it? Like an immune response. The commander's energy form flickered. Precisely. Every solution we've attempted has failed. Our most powerful weapons, our most advanced shields, they only seem to make it stronger. We've lost 17 worlds already. And that's why you're testing other species, Chen said, understanding dawning. You're looking for someone who might have a different approach, someone who might see something you've missed. The arena around them began to shift, its crystalline surfaces displaying images of destroyed Meridian worlds. Chen watched as planet after planet was consumed by a spreading darkness that seemed to eat away at reality itself. Our scientists estimate we have less than 1 orbital cycle before the cascade reaches our core worlds. The commander said, billions will die. Our entire civilization will be erased. We thought perhaps among the younger races, you might find one that could help. Chen finished. But your pride wouldn't let you simply ask. So instead you posed it as a challenge. A test of worth. She shook her head. How many species have you tested before us? 73, the commander replied. None showed the potential we needed. Until you. He gestured at the disabled warriors. No other being has ever understood our quantum technology so quickly, let alone found ways to counter it with such elegance. Chen's augmented eyes narrowed as she processed this information. Show me your data on the cascade. All of it. The arena transformed again, becoming a 3-dimensional model of the spreading quantum destruction. Chen's neural interfaces worked overtime, processing the vast amounts of information flowing through the display. Patterns emerged, connections formed. "You've been fighting this wrong," she said finally. "Look at these harmonic patterns. The cascade isn't attacking your technology. It's trying to communicate." The commander's energy form pulsed with surprise. "Communicate? It's destroying everything it touches." "Because you're fighting it," Chen explained. "Your quantum technology operates on principles of forced manipulation. You impose your will on quantum fields, but look at these patterns. They're not random destruction. They're attempts at resonance." She raised her hand, her neural manipulators reaching out to the quantum fields around them. The air shimmered as she demonstrated, creating a tiny model of the cascade's behavior. "It's like, imagine trying to have a conversation, but the other person keeps shooting at you. You'd probably respond with force too." The commander studied the demonstration, his energy form shifting through various spectral patterns that Chen's augmented vision interpreted as deep thought. "If what you're suggesting is true, but how can we possibly communicate with it? Every attempt to interact with the cascade has only accelerated the destruction." Chen smiled. "Because you're still thinking like meridians, trying to force communication through power. Let me show you something we learned on Earth, studying quantum entanglement at the microscopic level." Her neural interfaces activated fully, creating a complex web of quantum interactions in the air between them. Unlike the meridian's powerful but brutal manipulations, these were subtle, almost delicate. "Sometimes," she said, "the best way to handle quantum phenomena is to suggest rather than demand, to create possibilities rather than force outcomes." The demonstration expanded, showing how small changes in quantum fields could create cascading effects without direct force. The commander's energy form pulsed with what Chen's systems interpreted as growing excitement. This could work," he said. "But the scale required to attempt this across an entire star system would be impossible using your current methods," Chen agreed. "But that's where humanity's contribution becomes crucial. We don't need to match your power, we just need to change how you use it." She turned to face the commander fully. "I'll help you save your civilization," she said. "But on one condition. When this is over, when your people are safe, you need to understand something fundamental about humanity." The commander's form shifted questioningly. "We didn't pass your test because we're powerful," Chen said. "We passed it because when faced with an impossible problem, we don't try to overpower it. We try to understand it. That's humanity's real strength, not our ability to fight, but our drive to comprehend." The crystalline arena hummed with potential as the commander considered her words. Around them, the quantum fields shifted and swirled, as if the universe itself was waiting to see what would happen next. "The choice is yours," Chen said quietly. "Continue trying to fight the cascade and watch your civilization fall, or trust in a solution that goes against everything you believe about how power should work. What's it going to be?" The Meridian flagship's quantum core chamber hummed with enough energy to power a small star. Chen stood at its center, her augmented eyes tracking the complex patterns of light and energy that flowed through the crystalline architecture. Around her, Meridian scientists watched with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "You understand," the High Commander said, his energy form flickering with tension. "If this fails, the quantum backlash will destroy this entire system." Chen nodded, her neural interfaces already adapting to the massive quantum fields surrounding her. "That's why we're not going to force it. Your scientists have configured the quantum core according to my specifications." "Yes, though I still don't understand how reducing our power output will help. We've spent decades building our technology to maximize energy projection." "That's exactly the problem," Chen explained, her hands moving through the quantum fields, making subtle adjustments. "You've been trying to shout at the universe. Sometimes you need to whisper." The chamber's energy levels began to shift, dropping to levels that made the Meridian scientists buzz with alarm. Chen ignored their concern, focusing on the delicate task of retuning the quantum harmonics. Her neural manipulators worked at the smallest possible scale, adjusting individual quantum states with microscopic precision. "Look at these patterns," she said, gesturing to the holographic displays showing the void cascades approach. "There's a rhythm to it, a pulse. It's not random destruction. It's like a heartbeat." The commander moved closer, studying the displays. "I see it. But what does it mean?" "It means the cascade isn't a weapon or a natural disaster. It's alive. Or at least it's a form of quantum consciousness that operates on principles we barely understand. And we're going to talk to it." Chen closed her eyes, allowing her augmented senses to fully merge with the quantum fields. Through them, she could feel the approaching cascade, a vast, swirling mass of quantum potential that defied conventional physics. But there was order in that chaos, patterns that reminded her of mural firing patterns scaled up to cosmic proportions. "Initiating quantum resonance," she announced. The chamber's energy shifted again, matching the subtle harmonics she had detected in the cascade. "Commander, I need your scientists to maintain these exact frequencies. No attempts to amplify or modify them. Just hold this state." The next few hours were a delicate dance of quantum adjustments. Chen worked with absolute focus, using her neural interfaces to create a complex web of quantum entanglements. Unlike the Meridian's usual brute force approach, these connections were gossamer thin, barely detectable even with their most sensitive instruments. "There," she said finally, stepping back from the core. "Now we wait." The commander's energy form pulsed with impatience. "Wait for what?" "The cascade will reach this system in less than 30 standard units. Wait for it to notice that we've stopped shouting and started listening." The minutes stretched out in tense silence. On the holographic displays, the cascade continued its approach, but something was different. Its patterns were shifting, becoming more ordered. "Look," Chen pointed to a subtle change in the quantum harmonics. "It's responding to our resonance pattern. We're not trying to fight it or control it. We're matching its natural frequency." The chamber's instruments began registering new data as the cascade drew closer. Instead of the destructive wave that had devastated so many Meridian worlds, it approached more like an incoming tide, powerful but controlled. "Now comes the hard part," Chen said, her hands moving through the quantum fields again. "We need to show it that we understand, that we're ready to learn." She began making minute adjustments to the quantum harmonics, creating patterns that mimicked the cascade's own rhythms, but with subtle variations, like a conversation in quantum mathematics. The cascade's response was immediate. The destructive wavefront transformed, becoming a complex matrix of quantum interactions that surrounded the flagship without attacking it. "It's beautiful," one of the Meridian scientists whispered, watching as the quantum patterns danced through space. Chen smiled. "It's trying to teach us something. Your quantum technology is incredibly powerful, but it's crude compared to what this entity understands. It wasn't attacking your worlds. It was trying to show you a better way, but your defenses interpreted its attempts at contact as aggression." The commander's energy form shifted through multiple spectral patterns as he processed this. "All this time, we were fighting a potential ally." "More than that," Chen said, her augmented eyes tracking the increasingly complex quantum dance around them. "I think it's been waiting for a species advanced enough to understand quantum manipulation, but humble enough to listen instead of trying to dominate." The chamber filled with new patterns as the cascade's communications became clearer. Through her neural interface, Chen began to understand fragments of concepts that defied conventional physics. The Meridian's quantum technology had barely scratched the surface of what was possible. "This is why humanity passed your test," she told the commander. "Not because we're stronger or more advanced, but because we're willing to admit when we don't know something. We're willing to learn." Around them, the quantum fields continued their intricate dance as two civilizations began learning a new way to interact with the fundamental forces of reality, not through domination, but through understanding. 1 year later, the observation deck of Earth's new quantum communication hub offered a spectacular view of the transformed solar system. Chen stood beside the High Commander, their reflections overlapping in the transparent crystalline walls. Where once there had been empty space, now networks of quantum filaments connected planets and stations in an intricate web of light. "Your people have adapted remarkably quickly," the commander observed, his energy form rippling with what Chen had learned to recognize as approval. "In just one orbital cycle, you've achieved understanding that took us centuries." Chen's augmented eyes tracked the quantum patterns flowing through the network. "We had good teachers," she said, smiling. "Both your people and the entity have been generous with their knowledge." The entity, their name for the quantum consciousness they had once called the Void Cascade, had indeed proved to be an invaluable mentor. Its vast understanding of quantum mechanics had revolutionized both human and Meridian civilization, but not in the ways either species had expected. "When we first challenged Earth," the commander said, "we thought we were looking for warriors or weapons. Instead, we found something far more valuable, a new way of thinking." Chen nodded, her augmented eyes cycling through spectrums as she made final adjustments to her neural interfaces. "Tell me, Admiral," she said, her voice thoughtful, "do you know why humans looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them, even before we had the means?" Santos shook her head. "Because it was impossible," Chen smiled. "And doing the impossible is humanity's specialty." The launch countdown began as Chen sealed her ship. As the bay doors opened to the star-filled night, she broadcast a simple message to the waiting Meridian fleet. "You wanted humanity to prove its worth. Watch carefully. You're about to learn why the impossible is our favorite starting point." The ship shot into the darkness, carrying humanity's hopes with it. And in the cockpit, Sarah Chen's augmented eyes glowed with the light of quantum possibilities, ready to show an advanced alien race that they had severely underestimated what one human scientist could do. The void between Earth and the Meridian fleet stretched endlessly before Chen's ship, a darkness punctuated by the crystalline gleam of alien vessels. Her augmented vision caught quantum distortions rippling through space, the Meridian's scanning systems trying to analyze her approach. They were about to get their first surprise. The experimental stealth ship, dubbed Firefly by its engineers, didn't just avoid detection. It existed in a state of quantum uncertainty. Chen's modifications to its systems, combined with her neural interface, allowed her to keep the vessel in a perpetual state of probabilistic flux. To the Meridian sensors, the ship was simultaneously everywhere, and nowhere within a 1,000-kilometer sphere. "Fascinating approach, human." The crystalline voice of the Meridian High Commander cut through her communications. "You've mastered probability manipulation at a crude level. Perhaps your species isn't completely primitive after all." Chen smiled as her augmented eyes processed the quantum signature of the transmission. "Crude. That's an interesting assessment from someone using third-order quantum fields. Have you ever considered that complexity isn't always the answer?" She felt the spike of confusion in the quantum fields surrounding the Meridian vessels. "Good. Keep them off balance." Inside her neural interface, Chen was already running calculations. The quantum micro-manipulators in her nervous system weren't just processing information. They were rewriting the local laws of physics on a scale that should have been impossible. The Meridians had built their entire civilization on the principle that you needed massive machines to manipulate quantum fields. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Your challenge specified a test of worth," Chen continued, her ship dancing through probability spaces that made the Meridian tracking systems whine in protest. "I assume you have something specific in mind." The response came with a surge of energy that would have overwhelmed normal sensors. A massive portal opened in space, a tear in reality leading to what appeared to be an enormous arena floating in a pocket dimension. "Show-offs. Enter, if you dare." The High Commander's voice held a note of amusement. "Face our champions in combat. Prove that humanity deserves to exist." Chen guided her ship toward the portal, but her mind was already analyzing deeper patterns. the quantum fluctuations around the portal, the specific harmonics of the High Commander's voice, the way the Meridian ships maintained their formation. Something wasn't adding up. As she passed through the portal, the arena materialized around her. It was a vast space of crystalline platforms floating in a void, each platform shifting and rearranging itself constantly. At its center, 3 Meridian warriors waited, their bodies encased in armor that made them look like living constellations. Chen landed her ship on the nearest platform and emerged, her simple black suit a stark contrast to the Meridian's elaborate armor. The quantum field micro-manipulators in her nervous system were already adapting, reading and processing the complex web of forces that held this pocket dimension together. "Your champions are impressive," she said, watching as the warriors began to spread out, their movements unnaturally perfect. "But I have a question before we begin. Why are you so afraid?" The arena fell silent. Even the constantly shifting platforms seemed to pause. "Afraid?" The High Commander's voice boomed through the space. "We are the Meridian Empire. We have mastered forces your species can barely comprehend. We do not know fear." Chen's augmented eyes tracked the quantum fluctuations that rippled through the arena at the commander's words. "You're lying," she said softly. "Your quantum fields are saturated with uncertainty patterns consistent with extreme anxiety. Your entire civilization is terrified of something, and this challenge." She gestured at the arena, the warriors,